everyone. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Next in Queue. My name is Rob Dwyer, and this is the podcast all about contact center and customer experience professionals. Joining me today, Mark Pereira, who is a supervisor and trainer at Brilliant. Welcome, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great, Rob. Nice to be here. Nice to finally talk to you too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been kind of going back and forth on LinkedIn for quite some time now.
I
I
agree.
think I think we opened up communication maybe as long as almost a year ago,
Yeah.
and I talked to you quite some time ago about being on the podcast, and you were gung ho, and it was just a matter of scheduling some time to get you on, and so now here you are.
Yeah. Great to be here.
So you are in Indianapolis
Mhm.
today, which is not too awfully far from where I am in St. Louis. It's about a 4-hour drive. But you're not originally from Indianapolis. So let's talk a little bit about where you're originally from.
So I was born and brought up in Bahrain, one of the Middle Eastern countries. Then my mom ended up taking me back to India, which is India Goa. We've got uh, a little house over there, kind of like that's the hometown as such. Did my
Okay.
most of my additional education back there. Then my mom decided that she's gonna take us over to the USA, and the places that she picked was Indianapolis. So she dragged us across a whole bunch of miles this time, and landed up over here in Indianapolis. Ended up getting my first call center job December 10th, 2007, when I came here, and it's different. Now, a lot of people, some people kind of joke around and saying that, a lot of call centers are in India. Why did you have to come all the way from India to work in a call center here in Indianapolis? So hey,
Yeah.
I'm here. So
That's
it's nice.
so how old were you when you moved to Indianapolis?
I believe it was 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why Indianapolis? Do you know why'd your mom pick that?
Well, she's a nurse. My mom's a nurse,
Okay. Okay.
and she was fed up with how healthcare was in India, and she decided that let's do something else. So she decided, let's come here, and she told me that either I came or I get cut off. And as a fresh graduate from school, I don't think I would have been able to take care of this big huge house. We've got a kind of like a big house in India. It's an old big house, and the electric bill came up to about at least about $100. Now, $100 in India is a lot of money. That's basic.
Right.
That's more or less one person's salary for a month. And I don't think I was going to be able to make it there by myself. Now, if my mom was going to, my parents were going to take care of me while I did all that, lovely place, beautiful place, I definitely would have made it there. But once she said that she was going to cut me off, had to change the whole thing, everything brand new, came here and started off fresh. There's that saying that fresh off the boat, felt exactly like that.
Well, I know that you have been really persistent in giving back to the contact center community, and I think that speaks to kind of how much you really enjoy what you ended up in back in 2007, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
been a long time, and so, but before then, right, you tried a few different things uh, before you came to the States. One of the things when I look at your LinkedIn profile, you've got certs out the yin yang.
Yeah.
And some of those are related to insurance
Yeah.
in that industry. So, can you tell us a little bit about about your foray into that financial world?
Well, while I was in India and I was trying to make some money on the side, I decided I'll go in for life insurance. One of my friends, he told me, hey, this is something that you can do part-time. You don't have to do it every time and pays good as long as people pay their premiums and so on and so forth. I went through the classes, got my certification, started working, and it was different. It was my first time in sales. And when people have a kind of like a stigmatism towards insurance, it makes it a little difficult to get through. And trying to balance school out and work, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't easy. So there were a few challenges, but I still was able to learn from them in terms of how you can sell or market intangible services. That was a good learning experience, and I've done in order to get some pocket money around the side, uh, like during Christmas break, Diwali, and all of these different Indian festivals, I would just do things. I would sell phone subscriptions. I would sell Maggie cubes. I would sell. I was at the back of a rickshaw. It's kind of like this big huge rickshaw with a sign on at the side of it saying Tata Docomo, selling Tata. What should I say? Tata subscriptions for cell phones. I've also stood at the side of a petrol station trying to promote their premium gas. It's different, and that kind of gave me an insight that life is different once you actually graduate.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. Well, it seems like a lot of those sales skills translate very much into the contact center if you end up in anything that has to do with sales. And while that can be a really challenging business to get into, it it can give you a lot of skills that translate to other things later on, and it certainly sounds like there's a good chance that you've been able to put a lot of those skills to work as your career has progressed.
yeah, one of the things that I've that's helped me change the way I taught when I came to the US, because I was like any other agent taking calls back to back to back. That book that says who moved the cheese, it felt like that every time that like say for example average handle time was 6 minutes, then they dropped it down to 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and now you have to get all of these things done all within 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And it just kept on just kept on running through day by day until I started just doing different certifications, doing different programs, reading books, listening to books, whatever I could in order to improve. And I think that was what actually got me off of the phones, with helping with training, becoming a team lead, moving on to supervisory roles, and so on and so forth. But it's not just what I can do for myself. I also try to do that for the people that are on my team. And even those who aren't on my team, I try my best to help them out in some way, because not everyone is open or welcoming to feedback. So that delivery and that approach has to be modified to what they would be looking for, because you can't tell you can't tell everyone that, hey, this is what you need to do. Sometimes you have to kind of like sugarcoat it and all that stuff, because the way they're feeling at the time, in order to deliver that message.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've learned with the contact center, at least.
Yeah, it strikes me that um, you must really have found a home at Brilliant because you started as an agent there, right? Was your first contact center job?
Yep.
And you were there for like 6 years, give
Hmm.
or take. And
Yep.
then you stepped out and you tried a couple of other places. So I guess let's start first. Like, why did you leave Brilliant the first time around?
Actually, the company that I was a contractor for, they ended up absorbing me into the company.
Okay.
And with that, that changed my role as a team lead and a trainer and all of these different things. I was taking, I remember I was, before I could leave or kind of make that transition from Brilliant to Maximus, I was only taking calls for the state of Indiana as the enrollment broker. When I moved over, I was taking calls for Indiana and also for Virginia Medicaid. So I would actually have two different, sorry, not two, I mean 4 different systems up at the same time. And based according to what call came in, I had to change up scripts, change everything up, and say the right thing because, they're going to be listening, quality assurance.
Yeah.
Because if you said, to someone from Virginia, hey, thank you for, I can't say, hey, thank you for calling Virginia Medicaid. My name's Mark, yada, yada, yada. How can I help you today? But if you mixed it up, you're going to get docked for that. So,
Yeah. Well, and it causes some serious confusion when if you say Indiana and they're calling from Virginia and they're like, oh,
yeah,
what? I called the wrong place. That's certainly, I think, a challenge that a lot of people don't recognize when you support multiple clients or,
yeah,
in this case, that really is kind of two different programs. And there could even be some different rules associated with that. And there are a lot of agents who do that, and it's challenging. It is not an
it
easy
is.
thing to do.
It really is. And a lot of you kind of hear it from people, but when you actually go through it, it's a whole different aspect to the whole thing. And you really have to appreciate what call center agents actually do. Sometimes people don't understand the amount of work and effort that goes into a call center's agent's day. It's not just dealing with the information, making those decisions, but it's also dealing with those with customers. Now, some customers, when I used to take calls, great, very respectful, courteous, friendly, nice, and really thankful and grateful for you being on the other line. And then we know it's not always rosy gardens on the other end,
Of
and
course not.
it is challenging. But I've
Yeah.
noticed that initially, when I came from India, I had a strong Indian accent, right? And I had to adapt that by watching movies, conversing with different individuals, what, taking classes, and so on. When I say taking classes, I'm talking about like project management, different other things. And I would try to pick up from different people how I could enunciate words, how I could speak clearly, and so on and so forth. Because you're not talking to an individual face to face, you're talking to them over the phone. And when they sense an accent, even if you are speaking English, that comes in, and then people tune out like, sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. You don't make sense to me. I've
Yeah,
had that.
absolutely. Yeah, that I think it's unfortunate, but it is a reality that call center agents have to deal with, particularly if they are not originally from the States or if it's English as a second language for them and they have an accent, or even, and this happens sometimes depending on where you grow up in the US,
Hmm.
even if you're a native English speaker and you grew up in the US, you may have a strong accent.
Yeah.
There are people, if you're from New York or New Jersey, they've got a strong accent. If you're down in the South, right, they have a strong accent. And being able to kind of neutralize the emotional reaction that people have to that can be really useful in forwarding what it is that we need to do.
I agree. And this was where I was working in a call center. So I knew that I had to change. I can't get people to change because I'm different, I'm new and so on. So I had to make a few modifications to me because if this was the line that I was going to be in, and if this was the line that was going to pay those bills.
Yeah. Did you ever consider getting out of the call center business and doing something that was a little more face to face so that you didn't have to deal with that as much?
Well, you see 2007, 2008, 2009, that was when
Tough time.
things, yep. So at that moment, it was kind of hang on to what you had at that moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
after you spent so much of time in that space in that at call center, you get comfortable until you decide that what more can I do? You stop thinking about that victim mentality and think about, well, how can I change this? How can I do more? How can I help more? And that's what made me push to become a trainer. And when I thought about training, I would see classes coming in one after the other and people not making it. And the first thing that came to my mind was, if these people are not making it, I've got a job. These people have got bills. They've got kids to take care of. They've got different things that are happening with their lives. What can I do to improve? How can I make this better? The first time I went in for a class, I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I just knew that I wanted to get off the phones and help people. All right. The first class went well. It was a different experience. I remember my team lead telling me, Mark, you take this document, you go in there, read it to them, tell them to highlight all of these things, and that's training. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. But I felt that didn't seem right. That wasn't the way how I learned. Then what I try to do is I try to incorporate different examples, different scenarios that I came across on the phones. So whenever I read a paragraph to them, I would give them an example. The next paragraph, an example. Now, class one went off well. Good reviews and all that stuff. The second class, when I tried it, didn't go too well. And there's that saying that you learn more from your mistakes than from your successes. So that was my failure. And with that got me into wanting to learn how does adult education work. I went to get my certification in professional training from the IBCT, and I just kept on reading up material, watching YouTube videos, Udemy videos, whatever I could to get my hands on to improve what I had. Because if I was given an opportunity here, and an opportunity to get off the phones, but also make an impact. So I started talking to the call center leadership team, telling them, hey, give me an opportunity to take your these lengthy documents. Like, they have these, I can't remember the name for it. I can't think of the word doesn't come to my mind. It's kind of like these statement of works, these manuals, basically. Taking these manuals that they would actually have people read through and highlight, like some call centers actually do today.
Some do, yeah.
What I did is I took out anything that was important from those manuals, related it back to how the call center world works, and I would convert them into PowerPoint slides. Now, then I understood that these PowerPoint slides look like things that I'm just reading off versus explaining. So I started condensing them, making them smaller to the point that it was simple enough for them to understand what was being done, but at the same time being successful. Like, say, for example, I remember there was this manual of how the system worked, but it had so many different modules. It was about 200 pages long. All right, 200 pages long of, because it was kind of like an out of the box software that they provided this call center.
Okay.
So they just gave it to the agents to read, and a lot of the stuff didn't actually work, or a lot of the stuff didn't actually make any sense. Wasn't even there. So I just took out whatever was necessary, took screenshots, put it up together, and boom, I provided it to agents, and they were able to go out and get through their calls one after the other, do the enrollments, document their calls, get through their calls, and on to the next one. Because what was happening is this: classes of 10 would come in. At the end of 1 week, it was down to probably 4. When they passed their final exam, it was down to 1. And after the first month, there was none.
Right.
So I definitely had to change something. And then I started making it a goal, a point that if they gave me 6 agents, my goal was to retain these agents and get them to pass the exam, and after that, get them to be at least with the company for at least 6 months by providing ongoing training, whatever I could think of. And slowly, I started achieving that.
It strikes me that a lot of agents are looking for ways to stay within the company but get off the phones. And certainly that was true of me. That was obviously true of you. But what made you successful, I think, is it wasn't just about getting off the phones. It was about recognizing that these are people, they have lives.
Mhm.
I want to help them be successful, and I'm going to figure out how to do that. And in a training role, I mean, I hear you talk about trying to retain people, right? And there's a business case to be made for that, but there's also just the personal, I want you to be successful. I don't want to be the reason that you fail.
Yeah.
And I think that that says a lot about you, and you can tell that you really have just put in a ton of effort to be better at
Thank you.
what you do, so that in turn, right, you can help more people be even more successful.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things, most of our call center agents are working remotely. I mean, in today's world, there
Yeah.
are a few, maybe I would say between 15 to 20% that are gone back into the office, brick and mortar. But a lot of the call centers that were working in the office, yes, they had training, but they also kind of like developed kind of like a society where everyone would interact, share information, and so on. But when they started
Mhm.
moving to a remote setting, that's changed. And it becomes a little more challenging where when you bring in newer agents to fill roles that are now available. But these newer agents, they don't have the ability to just turn their chairs around, talk to their mentor and say, hey, I've got this call on the line. I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what to do? That's different today. So what I started doing is I started developing a SharePoint site. But I knew I had to do it in a way, and this is I had to learn SharePoint from scratch
Hmm.
as much as I could, because the training team basically gave me a SharePoint site and said, well, this is what you wanted. Go go do something. And I just started learning as much as I could, getting the training material, building it up, so that it worked like a website. Exactly like a website with links, with a little bit different content, training content, so on and so forth. Because the thing is that when you train people, we're being bombarded with so much of information. Even while you're in a
Mhm.
training class, or whether it's remote, in person, no matter what, you're getting a lot of information. And the issue is that people have a hard time retaining that information. There was actually, I remember reading an article where they compared human beings, the attention span of a human being, to a goldfish, right?
How do we make out on that?
Actually, it seems that with today's technology and what our cell phones and all of that, the goldfish seems to have more attention than compared to a human being.
Well,
That,
that's not good for the people listening to this podcast. They
I
quit
know.
listening a long time ago then.
So with that, I just started developing this SharePoint site to the point that every line would have its own information, and if someone came to that page or that section, they could get whatever information that they need, links to whichever external resources, whatever they could, in order to get them to answer that question. And at least, again, helps with retention. And call centers are all about average handle time, because if average handle
Yeah.
time is low, that means more calls get answered, and it's just better business, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't kind of look at it from the agent's point of view as to how is the agent supposed to get that information. Yes, they want the agent to get that information, get these calls done, move on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one, like Jay-Z said. But I mean, if they don't have the information, how are you going to get them to the next one? These callers are going to call, either they're going to call back, or you're going to lose customers, or they're going to complain to your client because of subpar services. And I remember reading another little insight that during the pandemic, customer expectations have, I think, gone up to 65 or 68%, which is increasing demand on the customer service team, because customers have these high expectations. They want it,
Yeah.
now, they want it in the right way, and they want the right information. And yes, you can have a person who knows, who's good. I mean, they're respectful, they can talk clearly, all of those different things. But if they don't know the information, what type of customer service are you going to get? It's like going to McDonald's, but the person doesn't know the menu who's serving you.
Right. So, two things. Number one, you're the first Jay-Z reference on the podcast, so congratulations. I'm really excited about that. And number two, let's talk about reading a little bit, because you don't just share your insights with your team. In fact, I think it wasn't just LinkedIn where I first um, came into contact with you, but I think it was ICMI. You have shared some things with them, and currently, I know that you're also sharing some insights with Contact Center Pipeline as well. So, how did you get into that?
Well, actually, it was through the NACC, through a gentleman by the name of Paul. And I signed up. I was looking through the internet for call center associations that provided different articles and so on and so forth that their subscribers could learn from. And I noticed that if you participate in a certain amount, that the subscription would be free, because I didn't want to pay for something that I had no idea what I was going to get. So I ended up joining, and I liked the things that were coming through. I liked learning about all of these different things, because it kind of opens your world up to you just getting out of the car, walking into the office, talking to people, coming back home, and basically the same SHIT different day, right?
Yeah.
So you can beep that out if you want to. Sorry about that.
No, I I don't think I have to beep that out, and that's
Okay.
certainly not the worst thing that's ever been said on this podcast. So,
Okay. Okay. But once I started actually learning and reading about the world outside my current call center, it helped me gain insights as to like what other call centers are doing. How can I implement this? What are the challenges that they're experiencing? Could I use something from there? And that's kind of helped me kind of develop my team and the different operations that we have going on. And
yeah,
and then at the same time, when Paul said that, hey, Mark, he started talking to me and telling me about his how he contributes to contact center pipeline, and I always wanted to kind of get to his level as such, contact center pipeline, right? And I started writing a few articles, just kind of testing the waters, doing some infographics. And mind you, my wife would actually be the one who would do all the reading through to make sure that I'm not putting any rubbish out there. And
she was your proofreader.
yeah, because let me tell you this, once I go into one mindset, I'm only thinking about this, that, and all that. And sometimes my mind is thinking so fast that the keyboard isn't going fast enough. I'm not typing enough faster. So she'll say that this thing doesn't make sense. What are you trying to say here? And then finally, it contact center pipeline, and then after that, ICMI started writing articles for them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
that's great. The one thing that I love about those is that it can help start or continue a conversation, and that, to your point, right, we can learn about what's going on in other places, because I do think that if you're in a contact center, that's kind of your fishbowl,
Mhm.
and that's what you're immersed in,
Yeah.
and you forget that not everybody is doing things the way that you're doing them, or that there are other ways to accomplish things, and maybe better ways.
Yeah.
And those publications, I like them because it makes me think, like,
Mhm.
okay, what could we be changing? What could we do differently? And helps challenge my train of thought sometimes, because I think we can all be like, no, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And that's great if you're a Mandalorian, but sometimes it's like, no, there's another way. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Uh, there are quite a few different ways or different things that I've been able to look at, take not only just writing articles, but also I try to engage in different forums like on Facebook for call centers. Anytime someone's saying that, hey, I'm having trouble with quality insurance, I'm a new QA analyst who's just got off the phones and hey, but I'm scared, I'm nervous about this, or I'm a new trainer, I've got a new class. What are games or activities that you would use? So I just provide feedback whenever I can.
yeah,
But
no,
for
that's
our
awesome.
call center, trying to simplify that material.
Yeah, it really is great that you continue to share. I mean, it's one thing to really focus on the people in your own organization, and I think it's even better when you can, branch out and try and help people even in other organizations, because and it's one way or another, sometimes we're all looking for some help. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And hey, I was there at that once upon a time, and I was just trying whatever I could. And when you have someone who can just kind of who's walked that area, kind of walked that path before, if they can make it a lot more easier, I'll do that. I'll try to, I'll take that on, because why try 100 or 50 different trial and errors when you can get to write the one that would basically work for you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, Mark, it's been a pleasure having you on Next in Queue. And certainly, listeners, if you're out there, go check out Mark's stuff at Contact Center Pipeline. You can check him out at ICMI. You can hit him up on LinkedIn. If you've got questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.